team, so there's no start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of our AppConsult live podcast. My name is Matteo. I'm here as usual with my friend and colleague Mark. Hello, Mark.
Hi there.
And today we have a special guest who is David Coppet. He's the lead of the Azure AppConsult team. Welcome, David, to the podcast.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
And we have invited him today to talk, of course, about Azure. He's the lead of the Azure AppConsult podcast, or the Azure AppConsult team, so there's no better guest to talk about Azure. Last week, we discussed the most interesting build announcements from a Windows point of view. If you remember, if you watched the episode, if not, you can find the recording on our YouTube channel. We discussed some technologies like WinUI, React Native for Windows, MAUI, .NET 5, and so on. Today, we want to focus on the Azure story. So we leave the stage to David to share which are the most interesting announcements related to Azure. Thanks, David, for being here, and the stage is all yours.
Hi, guys. Yeah, thank you, Matteo. So actually, let's start with, we'll talk about two things. One is we'll discuss some of the big announcements on Azure. One of the major ones, one of the three main ones that I think are really important. We'll try to talk about some of those details. After, I will give an overview of I will just list some of features so we released in between, because there were lots of announcements, as you can imagine. There are always lots of innovation on the Azure side. And after, we'll talk a bit more about the App Consult and the scenarios, interesting scenarios on Azure that our customers are really interested in too. So let's start with the first part. And we'll start with Scott Guthrie that introduced the Azure part. The keynote was pretty interesting because this year the format, because it was the first edition, digital edition, was a bit different, and there was some segments. First one with Satya on the business update, and that one with Scott. That started introducing us, that started by giving us an update on the data centers. Basically, one of the big key differentiator for Azure is our geographic coverage. So now we have 61 regions, and we recently added a couple of them. You would see those with the big circle. So we announced Mexico, Israel, Spain, Italy, Poland, and New Zealand as new regions that will be opened to the public. The reason it's important is not only it's a key differentiator, but it offers you different options to serve your application closer to your customer, because as usual, the only thing you can't really improve and you can't really cheat on is the latency, network latency. But there are also concerns like data sovereignty that also are addressed through the availability of those different data centers. So lots of good news for the enterprise, the companies, and all our customers. Second, a big thing is when we talk about Teams. So Teams, as you can imagine, with the current situation, had a lot of users. We've seen a drastic increase, an exponential. At least if you look at the curve, it's pretty interesting. And the reason I'm talking about this is because he revealed that underneath, Teams is using Azure, of course, and it's implemented as a microservice application. And you can see interesting things on the slide deck. One is the Azure Compute Core that is correlated also, of course, with the usage, the number of users, but also the different services that Teams is using, that the solution is using. So lots of serverless, so AKS, Service Fabric, the Cache, Cosmos DB, media services, and of course infrastructure services, front door, Azure Compute. DevOps is, as usual, at the heart of everything, Azure Storage and Azure AD. So that also gives confidence, and that should give confidence to our customers, because this is a real use case scenario, real world scenario using our own technologies. After, basically, they focused on the challenges for developers that developers are facing, and basically one fact, which is everything need to always go faster. So time to market need to be shorter. You always need to bootstrap new project in minimum time. So these are challenges, basically, where we can really help you with our tooling and our services. And this is one of the things that one of the focus that are currently driving some of our innovation on Azure. And with that, they announced actually Azure Static Web App. Azure Static Web App is actually a long requested feature, because a lot of our web developers are using light front end with JavaScript, HTML, and then APIs in the backend, and of course databases and data source. And what's new is it's bring you that serverless hosting with that dynamic scalability, and for free, actually. So it's very interesting. Open lots of new scenarios where you don't actually need to have a full application server available to run your app. And you can have something lightweight, which is also integrated with GitHub. So on the DevOps side, behind the scene, whenever you create a new static web app in the Azure portal, it's working with GitHub, setting up GitHub Actions, creating a pipeline behind the scene, and do the work for you. So whenever you have updates, new pull requests, new commits, it will automatically update your website for you. Just what you would expect from first-class, fully serverless service. And of course, we also talk about functions, which will serve your APIs. So pretty good stuff, pretty exciting. Other part was around AKS. So AKS, there were different news that we released. There was a plus for Brendan Burns, which is one of the father of Kubernetes, which go through the details of that. But basically, we announced Windows GA of Windows containers. We announced spot pricing support, so on the cost to optimize the cost of your compute workload, and also a private link support, which gives you more control over the network, over the ingress and egress traffic, and give you also own dedicated IP. So you can pretty much do whatever you want with that. And this is one of the most requested features from our customers to really feel like they're in control, basically, and comply to any security or other policies they've defined internally. And of course, there were other things. But one of the very interesting announcements, I was really looking forward to this. It was the serverless, true serverless NoSQL. So Cosmos DB has always been a cool service, which is liked by a lot of people. But lots of our customers have always requested, yeah, give us a free tier. We want to try this for free. The service is awesome, but we would always like to try those things without paying. So we've listened to the community, and now it's on. We have a free tier that is available. Another really cool announcement is auto-scale. So Cosmos DB was a provision-based model. Basically, you needed to, when you design, set up properly your capacity, to have something that is optimized and also matching the right price. With autoscale, this unlocks lots of scenarios and remove some pain that our developers and architects have been going through and complaining about. So this is also a new, a very cool feature, and something we've been looking forward to through serverless and the SQL. There are lots of announcements around AI also. So cognitive service got lots of different updates. So better container support on the voice, because now voice is also one of the different media, one of the main interaction that we would leverage for different reasons, because it's hands-free, for example. It enables lots of new scenarios. So this has been also a great area of investment and excitement for the community. So new feature, the new speech voice style are available. Lots of announcements on that side. Another big topic was analytics. So analytics has always been popular. With big data, since the era of big data that we don't talk about anymore, now it has become something really common. But reporting, working over your data is more than ever a common need for all enterprises. Even within Azure AppConsult, we always have requests from our customer on this. So all the announcements, since we announced actually Azure Synapse back in last Ignite, I mean the answer was from the community was great and very, very interesting. The service was generating lots of excitement, and all the new features we've announced now are just following that trend. And just to add a few words on that, it's within all the architectural reference diagram that we provide. Having Azure Synapse, having lots of Azure data services like Azure Databricks, Cosmos DB are usually there. So this is also a part that is becoming more and more requested, and that will take importance. And you can see it also because through the investment we're making, that we're concentrating and we're innovating on that space. And probably we'll share this also in the comments, some of those links with summary of different sessions and more details about all those. I will quickly go over some of the announcements that we group by category, because I wanted to have some time to talk about the first scenarios we've seen with our customers. So for modern applications, we've talked about web app, static web apps. There was also an announcement regarding ACR, the Azure Container Registry, diagnostic logs that are GA. For secure infrastructure, on the IaaS side, there was lots of announcements regarding security, but also Azure Stack. I usually focus more on the public Azure, the online services, but hybrid scenarios have always been a concern and one of the features requested by the enterprise. A lot of companies are moving to the cloud, but there will always be some needs on-prem to have part of it on-prem and a real hybrid story. And that's also why Azure Stack is still has some momentum. And we made lots of announcements about services available. If we talk about Kubernetes, we've also announced back in last Ignite Azure Arc, which offer you also a management a solution to manage your Kubernetes cluster and more over on-prem, on different cloud, wherever it is. And we've made lots of announcements also regarding those. We've talked about new extension from Visual Studio Code to still let our cloud developers to have more features to make them more productive. So quickly logging into those VMs, SSH, really quickly, just to give you some example, or without trying to empower you within your IDE instead of going through the portal. So lots of things like that. Regarding readiness, there were also a very interesting announcement. So there was a work from Cloud Developer Advocate and the engineering group to basically record some of those videos and do some education. So helping you ramp up on different services through models they would be creating, and that the episodes that would be available on that TV. There is something I also forgot to add. It's Azure Q&A. So basically to create a space, a dynamic space where you would have quickly answers and engage a bit more with the community. So announcement to help you on getting access and really empower you on the technical side. And I think, I will just stop there.
Awesome. That was quite a bit. So, might I ask what was your, let's say, favorite thing that has been announced?
Probably Cosmos DB.
Really, Cosmos DB. Okay. Yeah, that's
the reason. I will tell you the reason. The reason is because we did so much consultation and heard feedbacks around those features that to see that they are available now, it's that will answer lots of those questions out of the box. So that's why it's okay. My big feature.
For me personally, it was the static web part stuff, because I remember having set up CDN things like for static websites, because you don't have to spin up an entire app service. You are using CDNs, but then you have to reroute the certificates and all this stuff. And now you have it basically in one place and can have it without any hassle and configuring multiple servers. So that is pretty cool. And obviously the edge container thingies for cognitive services, because now that they have improved the speech thing, you can, for example, use it in home automation, have it on a Raspberry Pi as edge device, and then do the entire recognition there already, because the custom speech wasn't available on the edge before.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. But this is actually very cool, because it opened lots of scenarios.
Indeed.
And that's really where you see the power of the edge computing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's really translated really well.
From my side, I was about to say Azure Static Web App as well. I've already started to play with them for on the Windows side. So I'm using them for MSIX deployment and automatic updates of Windows application. It was also a great experience, a great learning experience from my side, because it shows how much the Azure teams are responsive, and they really showcase the new Microsoft approach around open source. Because I had a couple of issues with MSIX deployment, because it turned out that the static web apps didn't support a couple of server-side features which are required to work. And I opened an issue on GitHub. I started a conversation with a Microsoft engineer, and like in 1 week, less than a couple of weeks, everything was fixed. All the missing features were implemented, and now I can use it just fine with my Windows application. So it was great to see quick turnaround.
So in regard of the Windows Package Manager story, or were you just playing with the MSIX on the static web
No,
page?
I'm using it for hosting packages for the auto updates with App Installer and
I
MS
see.
deployment, so that you can install a Windows application from an Azure static web app and deploy updates from there. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't experience any issues. I moved the static website of a friend already over from the CDN to the static web app, so that was pretty hassle-free. So props to the team, really.
Yeah, no, they really did a good job there. And also because of the Jamstack is getting really popular. And yeah, I think that really align with the community and resonate with also the modern developers. So you're right, this is also one big and cool feature.
True.
Yeah.
Also, both our teams were engaged in those one-on-one app consultations. So basically all of our engineers and some were ready to be booked for questions around various development topics, such as XPlot, desktop or web, or cloud topics. For example, be it IaaS, PaaS, containers, AI and ML, DevOps, and so on. David, you were there as well. Mind if you share your experience with the consultations? How do you like it?
Sure. Well, I have to say it was a new experience because
Indeed.
we used to do these on site, and that's something we definitely like. Getting one-on-one with customers, jump into whiteboarding and talk technical and be really engaged and passionate. That's something that's our bread and butter. We'll live for that. So this year, when we switched to digital mode, it was kind of a challenge, a little challenge, because we didn't know how things would turn out. So it was definitely an adventure, a good journey. But everything went pretty well, and it was also very interesting. It was different, but pretty interesting. So we were in the community connection space, and people could our customers could just go, and anyone could just go, and as long as we were registered, just schedule a one-on-one with us, and we were ready for them. We had the full team with engineers across the world. We were running 24/7 for 48 hours. So we were really waiting, and we were ready to get into those conversations. And it went well, actually. The customers were there, engaged, and they had lots of questions. And I would be happy to go over some of the popular scenario we had and discuss. But first, let me just recap quickly. So for a fun fact, we got retweeted by Scott and Salman. I will add that on my on my book. Was pretty interesting. And yeah, the outcome was pretty interesting. We had 1,047 customers over 41 countries. It was really great to have to be connected even virtually, but to see that engagement that was really nice. And one of the things we could notice is web development is, of course, really popular. And all kind of actually dev category were pretty popular on the Windows side, also cross-platform, and on the Azure side also. If you look at all the categories, it was pretty diverse, and we had all kind of questions, type of engagement, and different workloads. Now, if I dive a bit more into the scenarios, because I think that's the most interesting part, and learnings that we can share with the community. So one interesting thing that I didn't particularly expected was a lot of people were interested into really learning, and we are looking for mentors. So basically, learning from experts, technical experts, and learn from them, and learn different things, not only technical learning, but about the job, about the environment. How does that work? How do you do this, etc. Which was more than the technical knowledge. And it felt like a lot of people were looking into getting into technology now, or for reconversion, changing jobs and reorientation. And that was also feeling great, because you could see that the dev community was still there and needed us, and we're really happy to engage with those technical experts. So a lot of people were asking specifically on the dev side how to get started with programming with C# and .NET Core, which is also very interesting to see. There are lots of there is still adoption, lots of good adoption there, and access to technology in general. So the good thing is we were ready for them, because we have lots of resources. So on Azure specifically, we have a dedicated page with all kinds of resources, trainings, a webcast, all the events we do, every documentation, everything on a single page. We talk about also, we advertise our platform, Microsoft Learn. And they did really a great job. The past years, they created that platform where you could pick a product, define your path according to your role, pick up your level, and have fine-tune recordings, videos that you could watch to help you grow, to empower you. And this is really great. There is a really cool resources, which is the Azure Architecture Center, which is
that one is great.
Really great. They did a really good job on that. I mean, full mark. Really, honestly, I often use it. And
I was about to say that even us with like lots of experience, at least I often refer to that, because like they have great explanations, great diagrams and stuff like that, which is really like presenting the cutting off all the unrelevant stuff and just going to the like core to it and just explaining the actual issue or the problem that you are trying to solve.
True. And of course there is also, we have a good story of certification. They reworked all the certification, and I think they did really a good job. The latest one are pretty interesting, and they changed quite a few things, and they made it really consistent by creating dedicated path. So if you want to focus on one specific aspect, you can. So that was on the learning part. Another scenario, so we had lots of questions about general and common ask. One was best practices. Of course, our customers are always interested into that. And guess what? For best practice around the cloud application, we could refer them to the Architecture Center, because they already did that work, and really good and nice practice there. Another common one, especially nowadays, is cost optimization. This is actually a good chunk of what we are doing in Azure AppConsult, especially because we work with lots of startups, and cost is always at the heart of everything. But even for big companies, I mean, that's always the same thing. So we have a guidance.
May I interrupt, because like this is like I think an important point that I always highlight when I work with your team or with your customers, because like the Azure App Consults are not there to just like sell more stuff, but actually go there and see where we can help the customer. And even if that means optimization, like cutting down the cost because customers don't need it, because we're trying to help the customer first.
Of course, and that's a really good point that you're making, because we're actually not selling anything. We really 100% focus on our customer. We're really trusted advisor, and we will only advise what makes sense for the customer, because we believe in a healthy relationship. Of course, to win your trust, you have to be able also to trust us and what we provide you. So good point, Mark. That's true. There are also, of course, people looking into modernizing their application. There are always legacy apps, as there will always be. But that's what's really great is they are really looking into how can they modernize it with the cloud again. So it's still a popular topic, and the digital transformation in general. And talking about that, we had people even on the infra side looking into moving their on-premises servers to Azure. And we had an example with people wanted to move their SharePoint farm directly in Azure. And we have great guidance for that. We have ARM templates, one-click deployment, documented guidance, and even sometimes offering in the marketplace for those kind of scenarios. So yeah, so everything is welcome. Yep. There is lots of diversity and inclusion on Azure. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but same in Windows desktop development as well, right? Because, for example, Magix, they have the customer I work with, they have like a really colorful mix of all technologies that they would like to modernize. So you have basically everything in their products, and now they need to figure out how to modernize it into a single coherent way. And it's the same with the cloud modernization.
Yep, true. Yeah, another popular topic we had was DevOps. DevOps is always popular.
So I did a couple of those, yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so people are interested into general updates, and you can find them in the blog, the Azure DevOps blog. It's pretty popular, and they post updates quite often. And with the rise of IoT and the edge computing, there were also questions about, how do I do DevOps with IoT edge? And yeah, we had that covered also. Interesting to see that we had quite a few requests around those. And definitely IoT is more and more popular now. Automated deployment was a big one, and that's also matching the interest with cloud native application and infrastructure as code, and even also DevOps, where we try to automate everything. So that resonates well with those parts. Yeah.
What I realized is that customers are getting more interested in the GitHub Actions now. Because we had the focus on the Azure DevOps before, and now that GitHub offers like similar, or more lightweight services, customers are also looking at the whole Actions thing, which is basically you can have your own self-hosted runner there as well, and which integrates into Azure DevOps or into the Azure itself. So basically, it's not only DevOps, I assume, but also GitHub as well.
Yes. It's really DevOps as a whole. Yeah, that's a good point. Not Azure DevOps, but DevOps in general. Because a lot of them are GitHub now. Even though we still have lots of course, Azure DevOps Server based requests. And talking about GitHub, there was quite a few customers interested into moving to Git also, transitioning to Git and starting their journey, which was also interesting. Last thing I would maybe highlight here is, of course, because Kubernetes is popular, we also had a question around setting up CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline with Kubernetes for AKS specifically. And yeah, that's actually a good transition with AKS. I think nowadays that's definitely one of the top topics that even internally we're dealing with. So yeah, people asking about migration strategy. So I embrace containerization and cloud native in general. We got that pretty often, and customers have really interesting question, because usually a lot of people start to just go with the trendy technology, the cutting edge, bleeding edge tech, and sometimes get burned. So we have a lot of people who've learned from that, and now before starting really try to engage with us and ask for advice. So how should I embrace that? How do you compare platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, container as a service? How do I make sense out of all of this? And I have to say, I would give just my own personal view. Sometimes I often have a discussion of, Kubernetes is really great. Cloud native is really great in general. There are definitely lots of good use case and positive feedbacks from technologies, and the adoption is great. But sometimes you need to really understand what you're getting yourself into to really know that you're ready for this. Because it does have a cost, but sometimes people don't see it. And there are things that we don't anticipate, which is why sometimes I always have that conversation. I challenge a bit the customers. As long as you're sure of your choice, I mean, you know why you're choosing something, everything makes sense. But you have to be sure of why you're choosing it and have a good reason. And that's one of the things I really challenge customers on, because I'm sure that in some scenarios, they just pick containers and Kubernetes more because of the current trend than a real need.
Because of the hype, This is usually what I ask is like, do you really need planet-wide scaling? Because like this is basically what Kubernetes is. And then the question is, the answer is usually, And then they start to think, and then you can just work with them if they really want to have this extra layer of complexity, but rather have something more mobile to move across. But this is actually a good point, or a good starting point to get into discussion with your customers to see if they have really thought this through, or if they need any help to come to that point at all.
True. And of course, the next one, you can guess, best practices. We always ask about this.
Let me guess.
And it's well documented that we have answer for that. And a more surprising one, people have been also asking for best practices with ACR, Azure Container Registry. Because when you have distributed teams and you're using geo-replication, extra, there are some things you need to know and pay attention to. But that was pretty interesting to see all those diverse requests. Another unexpected one, I would say, was the marketplace. We got quite a few asks there. So it wasn't expected because, for me at least, because usually the marketplace it's something that is really interesting and something probably you should look at especially if you want to offer your SaaS service and you want to not advertise but find a new media to a new reach, new market basically. To visibility for your customer, that can be a really great place, especially because it's available for all the Azure users. And sometimes we just need to do a search because you're looking for something. And if you have an offer that matches this, then usually you would go and check out what's available. So there are people looking into how to publish your application. And nowadays that's become more and more popular, especially for ISVs and our partners that we are working with. They are all publishing their application there. So it's something that is definitely interesting and that most of our customers should at least look at. And we have a good onboarding session, presentation about the marketplace, how that works, what do we have, and why it's interesting for you. So plenty of things that we'll share and that is available. Next one was data and AI. Nowadays, you can see AI everywhere. So it's no surprise that we have lots of questions around this, especially around data services. So we have lots of different Azure data services, and sometimes it can be difficult to find your way. And that's why we have experts ready to help you. And one of the popular services we've discussed during that build was Azure Databricks. which has a good momentum and is also at the heart of reference, as I was mentioning earlier, reference diagram for data ingestion, data pipeline, big data in general. Another one, which is of course around the AI, Azure ML, it's quite popular also. Yeah. And actually we have a nice demo, a nice resource available on GitHub that show an end-to-end demo of all the Azure data services working end-to-end or all together. So that's something that is pretty interesting and that we'll share. And of course, analytics, as usual, was one of the asks. And best practices. Again, always best practices.
Always best practices, yeah.
On the PaaS side, so the interesting thing is at that build, you could feel that PaaS was democratized because we used to get lots of questions around web apps. And now web apps is kind of the usual thing. Most of the people already know about them. So we still had questions about how to host our solution on Azure because we get lots of requests around web development, and usually that's the next question. Next to the development is how do I host that? But customers were discussing lots of what were the different options available to them, especially now with containers in the picture. Surprising topic was the messaging. I didn't see that one coming. That's usually one of my favorite services on Azure because those have been around years on Azure. But it's still popular, and I mean I shouldn't be surprised because this is one of the basic of enterprise, especially service bus, things around interoperability, service bus. Whenever you're doing data exchange, that's web job synchronization. That's one of the basics. So we had questions about this. What are the different messaging services on Azure? When to leverage them? What's the difference? How do I include those in when developing web jobs, background jobs in general? Security, popular topic, of course, one of our main concerns of our customers. But surprising thing was a lot of customers were asking about specifically about on-app service, which is also the confirmation that app service now is quite popular with our developer, but they kind of already using it and know about it. So we had a few sessions about what's the security features available, what they can leverage to optimize and enhance a bit more, add additional security layer. Web application firewall also. What offering do we have that offer that feature? And the security center also, which is one of our main services for cross-cutting security over all your Azure resources. And there are some integration with app service. Yep, and last one, finally, I talk too much. Around identity. So identity, same thing, is a pretty popular topic. Usually lots of discussions with integrating AAD, Azure B2C. And that one, lately, actually, we got lots of questions regarding developing multi-tenant application.
Usually close to my heart.
Oh yeah. And probably that's something that a lot of customers will be interested in too, because usually when you publish your solution in the cloud, it will be usually SaaS and usually would be multi-tenant. So popular topic, different apps, and that's actually one of the main concerns. How do you implement identity in multi-tenant app? And we had a nice end-to-end sample from Microsoft Patent and Practice. Yes, they are still active.
And I think like this architecture side, the architecture documentation, I think I know that one already word by word because I've recited it so often to Azure App Consult customers already, because like this one is actually really great and explains on how to structure databases and your application and how to segregate your data. Great website. So if you want to build multi-tenant applications, check this one out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with this, I will stop there because I talked too much.
No, that's perfectly fine. Matteo, you haven't said anything for at least 30 minutes.
Well, I was digesting all these interesting things. So my main line of work is around Windows. So most of the times these topics somehow cross with my path, but it's not my main job. So I was here mainly to learn. The ones that resonate most with me and I see most in my line of work are for sure the DevOps one, because well we did also an episode about this, but DevOps is becoming more and more important regardless of the type of software project. So also Windows developers are starting to adopt more and more DevOps to be more agile in deploying applications.
That's really true what you're saying, because we've seen DevOps for AI, DevOps for database, DevOps for IoT. Now it's everywhere.
Yeah, indeed.
All type of project.
Indeed. AI, for sure, it's another big topic also on the client side. So we have the WinML integration inside Windows. All the services like cognitive services have SDKs that can be used client side. So we have many samples of Windows application running with the cognitive service. And the last one I can mention is the identity platform. This is something that is becoming more and more relevant for client application, because this way, once the user is authenticated, they can leverage the power of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So the graph, they can create complex applications that put a lot of data together coming from multiple sources. They integrate with Teams. So it's a topic that is resonating well also among Windows developers. I'm already working with a couple of customers who want to integrate their identity platform in their Windows solutions.
Do you have any consultation that stick to your mind that you'd like to share, Matteo?
I did a couple of consultations which turned out to be really interesting for a couple of different scenarios. One of developer is heavily using web content inside their Universal Windows Platform application. So he's really interested about the new WebView 2 control, which is being developed, because this will allow them to leverage the Chromium engine inside the application without having to actually bundle the Chromium engine inside the application, because they can leverage the Edge, the new Edge browser, which is installed on the machine. Another one was a really interesting application. It's called it was the developer of an application called WSL Raft, and it's basically a distribution manager for WSL. Neat. So basically, you can easily install and switch the various Linux distribution on your WSL installation. So Penguin, Ubuntu, SUSE, all the distribution which have WSL support, you can easily install them, switch them, and for this is using a very creative solution based on a UWP application for the UI, with a Win32 process that instead takes care of all the WSL commands to integrate with the platform and trigger the installation and the deployment of the various WSL distros.
Is it available through the store?
Yes, it's on the store.
Oh, great. So I think I will give it a try. We will probably put in a link in the comments. So free promotion for the guy.
Yeah. These are some of the most interesting consultation I did. When it comes to the general client side, Windows development side, we got a lot of interest around MAUI, around .NET 5 as a path forward for desktop applications, around WinUI. Well, you know WinUI better than me, so WinUI was another big interest for people who did consultations around Windows.
Which is interesting because I think I didn't have a single consultation around WinUI.
No, it's always like this. The more you know a topic, the less requests you get on that. So,
okay.
You have to pretend that you don't know anything around WinUI, and then you will get tons of consultations.
Oh, good trick. I didn't knew about that before. Okay, good to know. Next time.
Okay, I think we can call it an episode. It was a really, really interesting one because we went really deep into a lot of Azure topics, either from the announcements at Build, but also not just the new stuff, but also the existing stuff and how customers are using them, which are the most common requests, which are the most common used service. So thanks a lot, David, for joining and for sharing all these insights with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you, guys, for having me.
So that's it for today. Stay tuned on our channels for the announcements of the next podcast and the next topics. And I hope to see you soon in the next weeks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.